Okay, I think we'll make a start and other people can join us as they come along. Good morning, my name's Rebecca Bailey. I'm the Programme Director for Towards the National Collection. And welcome to the second in our international seminar series. I can see a few names I recognise from earlier events and quite a few new people. So welcome if you're joining a TaNC programme for the first time. Our first international seminar, we looked at time zone far, far away, and we had speakers from New Zealand and Japan. And this morning, we're coming a little bit closer to home with a couple of European projects from Germany and Italy. Carlotta is going to introduce them, so I won't say more other than thank you so much to our speakers for joining us. The usual Zoom housekeeping, just to let you know that this is being both recorded and live streamed on YouTube. So if you don't wish to be broadcast to the world, please feel free to have your camera off. And in fact, for the strength of the connection, it's probably easiest to have your camera off unless you're called upon to ask a question. We're going to have the two presentations, one after the other, and then a joint Q&A at the end. But if you want to register questions as they come to you, as people speak, then please pop them in the chat function. Otherwise, we'll open it up for questions at the end, and we'll use the chat and raise hand function for you to alert us. So if you don't want to, you don't have to write a hugely extensive question. We can just call upon you to ask it verbally. We like to bring a little bit of the human face to these events where we can. Just looking to my colleagues, have I done all the housekeeping that's required? Yep, I'm getting a thumbs up.
We are recording.
Yep, done that.
Okay.
Done that. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Carlotta, who will introduce herself and her speakers.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you everyone who is attending this morning. I'm Carlotta Paltrinieri. I'm the senior researcher here at TaNC, and together with Colin McDowell, we're organizing this series of international events, which are part of a larger program of events. So please do visit our website to be up to date with what we're doing. So in the case of the international seminars, what we're trying to achieve with these is that these guests that we're inviting from all over the world are helping us learn from how to aggregate not only cultural heritage collections at a national scale, but how to open up these collections to a larger audience. So listening to their multi-year experience in this field will guide us in achieving our main objectives, which are dissolving barriers between collections and opening them up to new cross-disciplinary research, as well as expanding and diversifying virtual access to the UK cultural heritage. And today we will hear from Davide Madonna, who is the metadata manager of CulturaItalia and is also directing the future projects of CulturaItalia, and is also project manager for Europeana support. And from Monika Hagedorn-Saupe, who is the acting manager of the Deutsche Digitale Bibliothek, and is also the president of CDOC. And she just told me this morning, and I'm very happy to hear, she's also responsible for the Museum 4.0 initiatives, which is an initiative about how to develop educational tools for museums. So we're very happy to have both of you here. And I will just be quiet now and have Davide present CulturaItalia and the greatest achievement. Thank you.
So good morning to everyone. I am Davide Madonna. As Carlotta said, I'm metadata manager and technical responsible of the Italian national aggregator. And today I'll try, first of all, I would like to say thank you to the whole organization of Towards a National Collection for this opportunity to speak with you about some experiences and challenges that our group met during our experience with CulturaItalia. So I'll try to share my screen. Okay, now can you see me?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, perfect. So as I said, today I would like to not have a institutional presentation of our portal, but I would like to highlight some aspects that, based on my experience, that are really important and fundamental to understand what you have to do when you are working to build a national aggregator, a new collection, and so on. So, a brief CulturaItalia history. I think that it is important because our portal was born, the first version of the portal was released in 2008, but you have to consider that the first version of the project was made in 2005. So from a digital world point of view, I have to say that we are speaking of a geological era of difference, because you have to think that in 2005 the most important social media was MySpace, and Facebook was just born, and so it even if they are just 13 years, I have to say that it seems that passed a couple of times. So our first goal was for certain aspects really different than the future development of the project. In fact, the CulturaItalia was born to create an aggregation point, not only for the digital object, but also for collection, information, and news about the cultural heritage. We have an editorial section. We aimed to collect information, as I said, about scientific publication and so on. But we understand that the digital world changes continuously, so we have over the years already 3 new versions of the portal, and now we are working to another one. So the first lesson we learned is it is fundamental to update, to amend your strategic plan based on to the experiences, the needs, and the technological changes. Below here you can see just 3 examples. They are not hypothetical examples, but they are really examples of a situation that happened during the development of CulturaItalia. So, based a change that we made based on the experience, almost all partners, all the partners of CulturaItalia provided items, not information about collection, not for example scientific publication and so on. So we are speaking about open access. So we decided to focus our strategy to implement the policy of aggregation the items, the cultural objects, if I can use this horrible word. So a need that we had, and that was a consequence of the first point. We understood that a lot of time some institutions were not able, especially in 2008, in 2010, but for the small institution today is still an issue. They were not able to implement an OIPMH repository, which is the technology that we use to harvest our the data within CulturaItalia. So we decided to develop an amatorial in-house software that we call it the Pico Converter, but it is really useful because thanks to this program, we are able to transform the information that we have from that we get from a CSV file into a structured XML. You have to consider that, in fact, even if there a small institution with its small digital library is not able to develop an OIPMH repository, probably has an MySQL database and extract the information from an MySQL database in CSV file is really a basic action that everyone is able to do. So we decided to have this to address this need with this program. And last but not least, and I think that this is one of the most important things, the technological change. For example, the implementation of the linked open data. When we started in 2008, yes, we spoke about, we already know about the linked open data, but the SPARQL endpoints and all of the related possibilities were implemented only after. So we decided to create a new section of the portal devoted to the, it is a SPARQL endpoint devoted to the linked open data. So, after this brief history, now it's time to say who we are. CulturaItalia is an initiative promoted by the Italian Ministry of the Culture, and it is managed by the ICCU, the Institute of Central Union Catalogue for the Bibliographic Information. These institutions, even if it's mainly devoted to the library collection, has a great tradition about standard and so on. So for this reason, it was decided to assign to this institution the CulturaItalia initiative. Actually, our goal is to provide an unique access point to digitized Italian cultural heritage and share the ingested resources at a national and international level. And a very relevant point, CulturaItalia is an aggregator, not a digital library. Why I bolded aggregator? Because I think that several times it is not clear that the terms aggregator means. I would like to underline that CulturaItalia doesn't collect items. They are owned and managed only by our partners. CulturaItalia, so because we are working on different, typically the GLAM sectors, works with the galleries, libraries, archives, and museums, must be able, because we are an aggregator, to ingest information from different institutions. And this probably means from different application profiles. Of course, I think it is quite clear that the libraries, the archives, and the museums adopt different standards for to create their own metadata. And last but not least, as I said, we are an aggregator. So it means that we work not only to ingest, but also to share the metadata, the data, and the information that we are able to gather to an European, a national also level. And for this reason, we must be able to share the metadata that we ingested according to different application profile. And we will see this after. So the second lesson learned is it is fundamental to engage content providers to define and communicate your brand identity. CulturaItalia is the Italian national aggregator of digitized cultural heritage. You must be able to communicate in the right way your mission. So our mission is to provide a unique access point to the digitized Italian cultural heritage. And last but not least, your vision. We want, our goal in this moment is to be the Italian point of reference for the digitization process of the cultural heritage. So if you are able to explain in a clear way this aspect to the potential partner, content provider, and so on, I think that you have done about half of your work. So, how we work? As we said, we work to ingest and to share information, and we decided to use our own application profile, the Pico application profile. It was developed, of course, at the beginning of the project, and it is an enriched version of Dublin Core, where we used the Pico terms as qualified terms. As you know, in fact, we have the Dublin Core element set, then we have the Dublin Core qualified Dublin Core with the DC terms, and where we found where we have some specific needs related to the implementation of some fields, we decided to create them. For example, we used the Pico preview for the thumbnail image, the Pico material and technique, because usually in Italy, when we are speaking about cataloging, material and technique are terms that are usually used together, but we also use it for the IIIF field that we implemented over the last 2 years. But anyway, we have to consider that we work not only into the implementation of our own application profile, but we decided also to work with the most relevant thematic aggregator that we have in Italy in the different fields of the libraries, archives, and museums. And we decided to have to implement the following sub-profiles. ICCD 2.0 and 3.0, and these sub-profiles are related to archaeological find, artworks, photography, postcards, and so on. Then we decided to implement also a sub-profile of the MAG profile that is commonly used by the libraries. And finally, we decided also to implement the MIDI Musei d'Italia, a customized version of the maps, because in only one case we gather not only the metadata but also the data, in this case the images, and it was for a specific project that was called Musei d'Italia, a selection of some of the masterpieces that we have in our museums. So, of course, we can't, as you already see, we used it to implement some sub-profiles in order to have a more complete way, the most complete information possible according to the metadata and the specific fields produced by the most relevant thematic aggregators that we have in Italy. But our basic model is really easy because it is composed. We have just, I think, 7 mandatory fields, and they are the title, the identifier, the type, in this case, according to the DCMI type of vocabulary, the subject, at least one term from our Pico thesaurus, the link to external resource, and this is a fundamental one, because you have to consider that we are an aggregator, and our scope, as I say, we want to provide a unique access point, but we want also that our end users will be able to find the complete information about an items in the digital library of our partners. So we have also a preview image, and now we apply also a metadata license and a data license. With the data license, usually I mean image, video, audio, text, and 3D. So over that, we have also some recommended fields. They are the creator, the date, the spatial. In this case, I mean the spatial coverage, of course, the type and the subject. In this case, only the literal value, not according to a controlled vocabulary. The description and the material and technique. So as you can see, it is not so rich because we are believers that only few information, but the right one, are really useful for the end users to find what they are looking for. So we decided also to produce our own thesaurus. It is the Pico thesaurus. We have different versions of the years. Perhaps we are developing a new one, a new version, because we think that over the years, and this is just an example, we understood that if we are working onto the item object level, probably it is relevant that we must be able to provide to further information about the object over than the, for example, the academic subject areas. In fact, we can find the who, people and entities. We are able to manage also information about this kind of metadata. Then we have a section devoted to the cultural heritage in a broader sense. Also a part devoted to academic subject areas. Then we have also a when section with the geological time scale and chronological division. And then we have a section that, in this case, it was produced at the beginning of the project, and as I said, in our first vision, we would like to harvest information about several and different topics, and here you can see some examples for events, services, laws, and regulation project. But as I said, we understand that the content providers usually focus their attention on the items. So, the third lesson learned: the application profile, it is not a joke, is your best friend. Choose it carefully, because with your own application profile, you should be able to aggregate easily resources from different institutions. And as I said before, if you want to develop your own, please work with the GLAM metadata experts, because they can provide really useful suggestions to make better your application profile. And don't forget that your application profile should be easy. You need to customize it based on your needs. For example, as I said, in 2000, really it was 3 years ago, but at the end of 2018, we decided to implement some tags in order to be able to gather information about the IIIF if some content providers were able to spread them. But you have to consider that in 2008, of course, nobody knows about the IIIF. So we are the possibility to update and to modify our application profile based on our specific needs. So after that, we worked on to the application profile, and we decided to transform the information from thematic aggregators, big public and private institution and small public and private institution. It's the time to ingest them. As I said before, we have two possibilities. The first one is represented by the OAPMH repository. The second one is represented by the Pico converter. So I already explained this slide before, and it is not the case anyway that I used the Pico converter closer to the small public and private institution, because I have to say that, of course, typically a national thematic aggregator, a big public or private institution, as I said, will be able to implement a repository. Instead, I think that one of the goals of an aggregator is that it should be inclusive as more as possible. So take in account all the needs of the small institution. Then I said we must be able to ingest, of course, information from the thematic, from our content providers, but but we must be able also to share this information that we gather according to different profiles. So the first, of course, way that we have to share our metadata is represented by the CulturaItalia portal, where you can find the information structured according to the PICO application profile. We have a Lucent Solar as a engine search, and yes, we are working to new implementation from a layout point of view also in these days, but yes, of course, this is a typical aggregator. Then we have the CulturaItalia APMH repository, where you can find metadata in different formats. Of course, we have the Dublin Core standard, the PICO, of course, also in this case, application profile, the ADM, which is for us really important because we usually worked a lot with the Europeana over some European projects. And then we have a CulturaItalia linked open data section, and in this case we decided to adopt the CDOC CRM solution, and you can use the Sparkle and the point that we have to at dati.culturitalia.it. So in this way we are working and we are trying to spread at the maximum level the metadata, the information that we gather with our content providers. So, as I said, still take in account the small institution. This is the fourth lesson learned, because several times they are really enthusiastic to be a part of a initiative or to be a part of the Italian. I'm speaking about my experience, of course, the Italian national aggregator and so on. So take them in account, and to engage them, of course, I explained my own experience. It is important that you have an alternative ingestion plan for their resources, and of course, you can build your own based on your needs. So, almost done my presentation. CulturaItalia next challenges, and one consideration that I think it is absolutely important in this moment. As I said, in our vision, our goal is to be not only an aggregator, but a point of reference for the digitization process of the Italian cultural heritage. We want to improve the data quality, and I'm speaking about images, video, audio, text, and 3D, because several times we ingested data sets from our historical partner, and now we need to improve their quality, because we have to take in account the technological changes, the technological development, and so what worked 10 years ago now must be updated. We want also to encourage the adoption of open licenses. This is one of the most relevant questions that we have not only in Italy but in Europe in this moment. Open is better, of course, and at least for an educational use purpose. And I have to say that from this point of view, we are absolutely in line with the Europeana vision, and in fact, we decided to adopt the same license framework that is currently used by Europeana. So we have a part of the resources released according to a Creative Commons license, or we use some of the rights statements that not all, I have to say, because in Italy we have we don't need to implement all the licenses provided by the rightstatements.org, but some of them are really useful for us. And here it's the time of my consideration. Less, but enriched with controlled vocabulary is more. Is it better to gather all the information available, or focus on the improvement of the 4W, who, where, when, and what? I think that our next challenge is this. we need to think not only at the national level, but also at international level, at least an European level. And so if we will be able to implement in a massive way the controlled vocabulary, and we have a lot of them, they're really useful and well known, and they thinking about geonames, the AAT, Getty, and so on. I think that we will be the BF, of course, we will be able to give an opportunity not only to the researcher at the national level, but also to the researcher at international level to improve the quality of their experience when they are looking for the resource. Now I have done. Thank you for your attention. This is my email. If over the questions that you will do at the end of this meeting, you can write me without any problem. I will be glad to respond to you. So that's all from my side.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being so generous with everything you've learned. That's exactly what we want to know, and we were particularly starting to have a debate yesterday about the less is more argument, so very, very thought-provoking and helpful for us. Thank you. Carlotta, if you're happy, we move on to Monika. Yep. Okay, yes. Monika, if we can go over to you.
Okay, thank you. So I'll try to share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Good. So, yeah, my name is Monika Hagedorn-Saupe. I'm one of the two directors, currently acting director of the German Digital Library. And I will give you a short introduction in where we are. Let me say first, according to what David just said, in that way, also the German Digital Library is not a digital library as such, but it's an aggregator in the sense that we are providing metadata, and our aim is to provide access to data which is distributed all over Germany in several different institutions whose responsibility is to show who shows their data, and the data are owned by them. We have the metadata which we are bringing together. So the German Digital Library is the idea is to have a free online access to cultural heritage. And we want that the general public can view free of charge the digital inventories of the German cultural institutions. So it's thought as an access point. And you can see here our data partners. They are distributed all over Germany. And it ranges from very small institutions providing their data via aggregators to the German Digital Library, up to big and large institutions. You probably know that Germany is a federal state, so the responsibility for culture is within the mainly in the 16 states, not in the federal government. And as such, in order to establish the German Digital Library, there was an initiative by the 16 states and the federal government to call on a competence network. It's a group of cultural heritage institutions from all over Germany. You see the points where they are from here. And they are together responsible for the building and further developing the German Digital Library. Here it's 14 partners. yesterday, in fact, we had the board meetings, and yesterday there was a decision to take a 15th institution on board as in the competence network in order to further develop the German Digital Library. So we have two, as it's a cooperation project, it's a network project, and we have two central offices, both with a director. And the one is the Office on Finances, Law and Communication. That's where I'm currently the acting director. And it's placed in Berlin at the Foundation Russian Culture and Heritage. And then we have a second office with a technical director there, which is at the German National Library, placed in Frankfurt am Main. And the German Digital Library is responsible for the coordination and especially for coordinating the technology development service. So we in Frankfurt, we have what we call a service center established at the National Library. And this service center is a point where every institution from Germany can get in contact, and in order, it's the first place to get in contact with if you want to in future provide data to the German Digital Library. They are handling the registration service, and so each museums, libraries, archives, and scientific institutions can register at the platform which is provided there, and can say that they are interested in participating. The next step, if they really want to provide data, then there are some more steps, and they have to agree and sign a cooperation agreement, which is being handled in the law office with me here in Berlin. Then we have special services, specialist departments on the operational level for the different disciplines. So we have one for archives, which is at one of the state archives in Germany, in this case in Baden-Württemberg, so in the south of Germany. We have a special office, a special department helping libraries who want to participate. This is situated in Göttingen at the Niedersächsische Staats- and University Library in Göttingen. And then we have one which is responsible to work with Cultural Heritage Conservation Department and the way they are providing their metadata and their standards they're using. We have one which is for film and the Film Mediathek in the German Film Institute in Frankfurt. And then we have the Photo Mediathek as a specialist department supporting photo mediatheks and photo collections who want to provide this information to the German Digital Library. And then we have a museum department. This is situated again here in Berlin at the Institute for Museum Research, which is part of the Foundation Russian Culture and Heritage. So, and then we have one of our 14 partners is the Fachinformationszentrum Karlsruhe, FIZ Karlsruhe. So in the southern part of Germany, it's a scientific institution for information infrastructure, and they are the practical operator. They are running, developing and running the digital library itself. So the interesting question, where does the money come from in order to finance all this? The basis was, and as I said earlier, it is we are a federal state, so we had to have discussions between the 16 states and the federal government, and and we started these discussions also around 2013 2004, 2005. I was also involved in the early developments of Europeana, and establishing the German Digital Library was a German reaction and a support to provide, to have this German Digital Library also in order to provide data to Europeana. And the 16 ministries of culture and the 16 ministers of science and research, education and research, together with the federal government state minister for culture, agreed made an agreement on administrative and financial aspects. This was signed in 2009. That we together would create this German Digital Library by nominating in this administrative and financial agreement originally 13 partners coming from the cultural heritage sector. And as I said, by now we are 15 partners there. So this group together is responsible for it. In 2011, we got money from the federal government, 8.5 million euro, in order to develop the infrastructure. And from this time on, there is a joint financing of the from the federal states and from the states and the federal government. And from 2011 to 2005, we had about 2,006 million euros per year, and additional funding for further developments. Now we are have a funding of about around about 4 to 5 million euro a year for the permanent running of the German Digital Library, and we get additional project money for developing various different things. So currently we have a special project running on with again with 5 million euro on further develop, make it more better usable for different target groups. So we are aiming at schools, universities, and small cultural heritage institutions. So here it's just a slide where you can see how the funding model, the funding developed over the years. So what has been done is by now we have about 36.8 million object references in the German Digital Library, of which are 12.9 million digitized media attached to. This is something which had been discussed all over the time, whether the German Digital Library should be an access point only with digitized media, or whether it should be it should have also object references which are which refer to things which have not yet been digitized. And this is a big discussion, and in the end, the decision was especially for the archival area, where you have the digitized finding aids, which allow. Otherwise, you wouldn't know that these things are there. But so it's an access to the archives in a much deeper way than it could be done if we just have the physical archive. So mainly the difference here is archival references to finding aids. So really allowing finding things, even if they are not yet digitized, but otherwise they wouldn't be found at all. Currently, we have 498 data partners who are supplying data, and you see the areas where they come from, ranging from museums, archives, libraries, monument protection institutions, research institutes, media libraries, and so on. and about 4,600 registered institutions in the database. So as I said earlier, not all of those who have registered can provide or do provide data already. Here you can see the development over the years. When we had the beta launch with the minister in 2012, the beta launch, we had about 5.6 million objects in the German Digital Library, and it continuously grows over the years. We had changes. We added a service portal, DDB Pro. So there is a close relationship. So the German Digital Library is also participates in the aggregators forum of Europeana, and we are in a close exchange, have been all the time, and are in close exchange with Europeana. So the objectives about the interest process over the years also developed. We had a fully replacement of the system over the years. So it's a similar as has been described by David, that you need to adapt to the technological developments. And the focus was also when switching to the new system was on better scalability, acceleration, because uploading the metadata took quite a long time, and if you want to include more and more data, you have to look into these processes. So this is a simplified model about the data processes we are using, but I'm not a technical person, so I cannot help here very much in explaining this. So the objects are to improve the work processes, and for this, for example, also our service centers, our domain-specific service departments are there. And then we are looking more and more also into working together with aggregators, and in order to be able to bring together as much as possible metadata. So in order to support the work of the cultural heritage institutions, also following what has been developed within the Europeana area, we have now a DDB Dash, which is an administration dashboard, and which helps the data provider to with data clearing, and it has been rolled out over the last years. This is a screenshot of the German Digital Library as it looks at the moment. It's going to change in June a little bit. And it will change again by the end of the year in a wider, hopefully in a wider space, wider way. It's going to change because we are at the moment funded through the German Research Council, developing a special sub-portal for sub-portal for newspapers, and this will be launched probably in June. Then you will, through the German Digital Library, you will have access to quite a lot amount of digitized newspapers also. This is just a screenshot. If you do a search, what you get as a first result. Here, this is a screenshot of one of the objects, the kind of the view you have in the German Digital Library, and then you always have the possibility to go to the data provider itself, where you get more information. And where you also have to clarify if you want to have more the rights and all these things. So what we are doing, we are looking into semantic linking. We using the entities which are in the authority file by the National Library in order to be able to connect information better. We are thinking about using more controlled vocabularies beyond what we can do at the moment. This is just an example where you can see how an institution is being presented, an institution which delivers data, in this case a museum from Frankfurt am Main. It is presented similar also like persons are presented. So what we also have is what we call a journal, and here you can find content, stories, curated content and connected information. And that is something which we will, in this developments we have in this special project this year, that we will further develop curatorial content, because we see that this reaches another group of people also besides especially researchers and scientists looking for information in the German Digital Library. So the German Digital Library was also one of the initiators of what we call Coding Da Vinci. Coding Da Vinci are hackathons. Now there is a group, a funded project by a federal foundation in order to organize these hackathons in several of the federal states. And the idea is that computer people and design people and others meet and use data of which they can find in the German Digital Library and build applications on that. And we really have quite interesting applications there now. You get a little bit information on the background area where we have short information text. Here, for example, one of our colleagues from Frankfurt, Cosmina Berta, she is now one of the in Europeana, in the Europeana Members Council active. So it's stories about and around people and activities connected to the German Digital Library. And then we have one feature which has been published about, or is available now about 1.5 years ago, maybe 2 years, that's virtual exhibitions. And here we have developed a tool which every registered museum in the German Digital Library can use free of charge in order to create their own virtual exhibition. And this is, I think it's about 1.5 years ago, then when we, about that time, that we first offered it. And it has a big resonance. We thought in the first year we might have about 15 virtual exhibitions, but in a way we have more than 50 in the first year. And of course, it may have to do also something with the pandemic situation, but not only, because we see that many cultural heritage institutions really are interested in using this tool and developing a virtual exhibition. And this means that you create stories which connect data which are there. So that's really for us a success story also. We had a preview possibility that's a little bit more about the discussion about the aggregators. We have to look more, when the data provider grow, we have to look more into work with more aggregators than we do at the moment. And they are various. They are like special thematic aggregators. They are regional aggregators. They are sector aggregators, which are in smaller and also bigger contexts. And the German Digital Library, we really try to work with them together in order to get the data from them, in order to make the German Digital Library the unique access point to digitized cultural heritage in cultural heritage institutions in Germany. We are doing some user analysis, and we have a special work package this year on our project in order really to understand more about our users, and I think we will be able to tell here more in about a year's time. So what we are doing also, we had our strategic plan and until 2020, and now we are working on the next strategic goals until 2025. We had a strategic workshop last year, and the next one will be next workshop will be in this June. In order really to, and this workshop is with all the staff members we have in the different places in Berlin, in Frankfurt, on the special service departments in the different cultural heritage institutions. They will come together, unfortunately only digitally at the moment, in order to brainstorm and to think together what should be and will be our strategic priorities for the next years, so that we can share this with our boards and discuss this in the near future. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Monika, for equally generous sharing of information. You won't be terribly surprised to know that I was particularly interested in the structure and the money. So I'm very impressed you managed to run this across so many centres and sub-centres, and it's very interesting to see the different points of investment, because that's certainly on our minds for the future. So we're going to open this up to questions for both speakers. You can use the chat function to say who you'd like who you'd like to ask a question to. You don't have to write out the whole question, and I'll just call upon you to speak. We have 2 in already, so while you're thinking, we'll do these first 2 questions. I'm going to have to be the voice, I think, for Alexander Huber, because his microphone's not working. But Alexander, come in on the chat if you think I'm going completely wrong here. So this is a question for Davide, and he's asking whether you have subject-specific sub-portals. So he, as an art historian, an art historian or a literary scholar, might only want to consult a subsection. Is that possible?
This is a really interesting question. Yes, we have different sections in our portal devoted to different topics we have, of course, archaeological, art, photography, and so on. So no, photography, no. But yes, we have also this kind of division in our portal, so you can find information, metadata, and resources only about a specific topic. But I would like to underline that, yes, we implemented this function, and we have it, and we will not delete it. But this kind of research represents about only the, I think, 10–15% of the overall search that we have in our portal. According to Google Analytics, in fact, I have to say that, and this is a broader talk about also the end users. I have to say that about the 65% of the total search that we have in our portal are generated directly with a specific query that was made into the search bar. So I think, and also the DDB from this point of view is aligned. It is central to provide a good search form and also to provide a good instrument for an advanced search. So yes, we have this kind of division in our portal, but I think that based on our own experience, and I'm speaking of data and the information gathered over 10 years, it is more important that if you are able to provide information and about the authors, the place, the spatial coverage, and this is strictly related to my last consideration, because this consideration was generated by the experience that we have with the experiences of the end users. So yes, they are useful. The end users use the section into the portal, but they usually are looking for a specific topic, for a specific object, because we have to keep in mind that the end users don't exist for an aggregator. They are usually some specific target users. They are students, researcher, professional of educational, so teachers and go on. So we must be able to provide them the right information for this kind of people. It is difficult that, yes, I want to find something about archaeology and archaeological finds. If I am a user and I'm arrived on CulturaItalia website, I want to find something that was produced in a specific place during a specific period. So yes, they are useful, but they are not fundamental, even if we implemented also this function on our portal.
Thank you for that answer. Alexandra, if you don't mind, I'm going to hold your second question so I can let a few people come in, and we might come back to that. Ian Watson, you came in with a couple of questions for Davide, but I'm thinking you probably are interested in them from both speakers. So do you want to ask your questions?
Yes, thanks. Yes, they do apply to both speakers. So first question was really about smaller institutions and what the incentives to smaller institutions might be. Does it give them access to any grants, or perhaps access to, or perhaps help them with any accreditation requirements for national accreditation schemes? And the second question was about archaeological sites. I mean, Davide, particularly, you talked about archaeological finds, but I wondered if it also encompassed archaeological sites in terms of CulturaItalia, and similarly for Deutsche Digitale Bibliothek.
Okay, the first question is really thorny, if I may use this term. At the beginning of the project, as I said, for example, we have a small institution with its digital library, and they had a lot of issue to implement, as I said, an OAI PMH repository. We gave them also some funds but I have to say that into short period, this is a good choice. In a mid-long term period, this is not probably the best solution that we can adopt, because they usually have some problem. For example, they are dismissing an old server and they forgot to move also the OAPMH module. So we lost the possibility to interact with them, and then we need to rebuild. So in this moment, we decided to trying to provide, and for this reason, we decided also to use the CSV file, because in this case, we have the information are almost the same. Of course, we can have some issues, especially in relation with if they update their collections, but we usually prefer to use this kind of solution for closed collection. And yes, we want, and we try to provide them a support, especially from a technological point of view, trying to them solve some issue, providing them information about the last development that we have into the field of the aggregation process. So, for example, we were working a lot with the IIIF consortium. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, we would like to organize a big Italian event for, especially for the small institution, in order to give them an end to implement this kind of function. So I think that the best solution is to provide this kind of support. Instead, for the second point,
can I stop you there, Davide,
yeah,
and let Monika come in on the first point, and we can come back to the second.
Okay, thank you. Well, the incentives for small institutions are, on the one hand, that we can convince quite some of them that it's about their visibility. We don't have an accreditation system in Germany, and so they are not in a way getting a lot funding in general, but they are, what we offer is, on the one hand, the specialist service for the different areas, so they can they help really the institutions in order to prepare the data so that they can go in the German Digital Library. But also we help them by providing especially this new offer, which we have now since online since about 1.5 years, allowing them to create their own exhibitions. So using this tool free of charge is something which is of high interest to many of them. So this is something which I think we will go forward in order to have more tools available which they can use. The other point is that, and I said, we have this currently this special funded project of 5 million this year, and 2 million of these 5 million euros are to support smaller institutions to help digitizing, because many of them still need to digitize their collections. And the only condition was that they have to be registered as a German Digital Library, and they had to come up with a proposal. And I can tell you, we know that there is really a high need for this, because we had we opened up the portal to register for the funding, and the 2 million were signed off in 17 minutes. So it's so we can really prove there is a big need in the cultural heritage area to get support for digitization of cultural heritage.
Great, thank you. I'm going to hold the second part of your question, if you don't mind, Ian, so we can get around the room a little bit. So Richard Palmer, you have a question about controlled vocabularies. Do you want to turn on your camera and ask it?
Sure. I think both speakers mentioned the benefits of controlled vocabularies for the aggregation of the data from institutions and for users for findability. But there's many gaps in controlled vocabularies that exist, and they're expensive to maintain for any one organization. So I wondered if either of you have any tactics to deal with that eternal problem.
Yeah, you are right. Absolutely. It is not easy. The first big issue is represented by the fact that usually the content providers don't use a controlled vocabulary at the beginning. So we are working to find a low-cost solution to implement these terms in our portal, and of course to give the enriched terms give back to the content providers, and this way we will be able also to give an added value to join in, for example, CulturaItalia. And yes, we are working on that. I think that we have probably a solution. This is a really big effort from a technical point of view, but probably we will be able to do it with a low cost. And last but not least, I have to say that another important aspect is represented not only from the using of controlled vocabulary, but also which controlled vocabulary do you decide to adopt? Because why for the authors we have the VF? Why for the places we have geonames, etc.? We have a sort of an issue related to the time, to the chronological period. Yes, because there is not a mass used controlled vocabulary. In this moment, it seems that the best solution could be represented by Wikidata, but in this case, you have also to think that they are. This is a model that can be used in a wider way, also for the time span. But I think that yes, we need to work also on that. But as I said, this is as I said before, this is the big challenge in this moment: find a low-cost solution to implement them, and the improvement will be really a huge improvement if we will be able to do that.
Great, thank you. Monika, do you want to comment anything on this?
Yes, we are using, as I said earlier, the GND, the GND, which is it's German for the joint norm file, if you want, and this is used by, has been developed in the library sector in Germany, coordinated by the National Library, but with a network of several libraries which we have in Germany, and they together developed this, and using it for it's being applied to books for quite a long time. It's as such a standard really used in the library sector. And with the support of the German Science Foundation, currently they're running a project where the DDB, the German Digital Library, is part of participating. It's what is called GND for culture. So it's the idea to further develop the vocabulary, that it contains also more terms which are relevant, for example, for museums. Because if you think about it, as it was developed as authority file in the library sector, it contains especially terms of where a book has been written about. But if you think about objects which are in collections of museums, not all of them have been, a book has been written on them. So there are many parts of collections which you would not find at the moment a term which is relevant in especially for the museum collections. For the museums, we see, and we developed also in Germany, in the process of developing the German version of the AAT, the Art and Architecture Thesaurus, which We hope that we can, also in the German Digital Library, will make some experiments of mapping to the AAT, using the AAT also as it is available as linked open data. And also we are thinking of using it in a development process in the next year, because we think that if we can use it, it would allow also a little multilingual access to what we have in the German, because our data are in German language, of course, but it would be allow also an access in English, French, partly in French and in Spanish and Chinese, and so. So the German Digital Library is also supporting really this development in Germany of having the German, developing further to the German AAT, and we will see whether we can use it. But at the moment, it's more the GND which is being used.
Thank you very much. Before we move on to the next question, just if anyone's watching this on the live stream, you can record your questions there and Colin will pass them through to us. So Monika, you've neatly segued us onto the next question about language. Daniela, do you want to say a little bit about what you'd like to know?
So, yeah. Hello, everyone. Yeah, my question is about the possibility of searching cross-language. So I've been a bit naughty because I tried both with an English query. There is an English version of, it seems, of the interface, but not of the searching. And I've tried the Italian. Of course, it's not a precise translation, but there is a lot of material on what we consider as a medieval pilgrimage, the Vies Francigena. So I'm wondering, considering particularly the advancement now in automatic translation, if there is any consideration of supporting cross-language retrieval and back translating whatever is retrieved in the other languages. And I don't mean only English, we can open up to as many languages, at least the European ones. That is there. So I'm just wondering if there is any plan for the future in this direction.
Monika, do you want to say a little bit more?
Yeah. We are thinking about testing a little bit. We looked at, like Europeana does also, at Google translation or a Google automatic translation, but it's not very, not yet really very convincing if you look at specialized texts from the cultural heritage area. But I don't know whether you know DeepL as a possibility, and we are a little bit testing and experiencing with it. And here, this, at least for German English, it seems to be much better. So we are in the phase of testing and checking. Also, what we are doing, and I think that we will do in the project we are probably going to do in the next year, is that we will do some testing not only about multilingual testing vocabularies, but also testing tools in order to find similar looking things, comparing images, because it would also be a possibility to bridge between languages.
David, do you want to come in on this one?
No, Monika was absolutely perfect in her explanation. We are absolutely on the same line. We have absolutely the same vision. And yes, in an ideal world, we should be able to do that. But yes, in this moment, it is not possible for the reasons that Monika explained. First of all, the quality of the automatic translation. And I have to say that, yes, from this point of view, we are working step by step and the use of controlled vocabularies, of course, will not provide an answer to a search such as medieval pilgrim, but I think that could be a first step. Moreover, I think that also the AI probably could be a very important step. Another challenge that we have now, because in this way, probably we will be able to extract precious information from an image, from a video directly according to AI, and probably we will be able to provide them also in English over that in your native language. But that's all for the moment.
Great.
Monika was absolutely clear.
Thank you very much. Carlotta, do you have a question for either of the speakers?
Yes, I do. My question is very big, so if we want to address the question, just write in the chat first, or I can ask mine. It's just mine is about the big question that we are thinking of, the for whom are we doing this aggregator, if we are developing this aggregator. So it seems to me from your presentations that you in developing your platforms, you were thinking of the need of the institution or the collections, and then you're developing also a side for the users. So you had the users in mind, but maybe they were not considered at the design level at the beginning. So do you think that if we're starting from scratch, how much should we consider the users in our understanding and designing of our platform? Or do you think that if we do it well for the collections, the user will automatically be drawn to the platform? Thank you.
Well, shall I start? I think that it is good to include already at least those target groups which you really are mainly address or want to address. So if it is it the general public? Is it the researchers? Is it the students? And involve those already in the planning. I think such a project like a national activity really develops over time. Also the technology, as David said, technology changes a lot. A lot more is possible now compared to 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But what we see also in the current project we are running, it is very much focusing on the different target, the different user groups we want to involve. And so you can do this also step by step. But I would really start in the beginning by that you define what is our main target group and include them already in the development.
Yes, it's almost the same, and perhaps as I said before, we are working to a new layout of the CulturaItalia portal because we are dismissing our old machine. So this is a transition moment for us, and yes, we have in mind to focus our portal, especially for the researchers. To provide, as I said, a point of reference for the institutions and collection, but especially to provide we have in mind that we work especially with the researchers, with the students, as I said. So, as I said before, we don't have an end users that for a strange case will finish to visit our portal. Of course it happens, but you have to consider that if I am a lawyer, for example, I'm not wake up in the morning and say, oh, I really want to know something more about the Tondo Doni of Michelangelo. No, probably we have a researcher that's worked about a specific research on Michelangelo and so on, or on to the Italian painting of the 16th century. So probably he will decide to give a look to the Tondo Doni, and probably he will find information in our portal. So when you are working, yes, you must have that you must keep in mind that we are working with a high qualified public, and so you need to provide them high quality information. of course, if possible. And from this point of view, it is relevant to work with the thematic aggregators, because they usually provide a scientific validation of their metadata before to publish them, and they expect that they are of good quality. So yes, we have a specific kind of public, and when you build your portal, you need to address them and their needs.
Great, thank you.
Thank you both.
Martin, do you want to come in with your question about exhibition format?
Yeah, yeah, this was a question from Monika. You told about the digital exhibition formats, and I also had a look, of course, on the site. They're a bit sort of like long, scrolly telling pages with like mixture of text and images, I guess. I was wondering how you sort of developed that, how given that there's so many different types of stories and objects, and there's different ways potentially to tell a story.
Well, I can't. We based on Monika, the tool which at the time had been used by Europeana. Europeana has now changed to another tool, but we said based on Monika, we had an agency who developed with us together different scenarios for presenting different topics, and this is and we want to, and at the moment we include, as you said, text and images, and we will further develop it also to be able to include also other media. So that's one of the topics to further develop based on a usability test on the one hand, how it works at the moment, and a survey with the cultural heritage institutions using it at the moment, what they would wish to have as an additional topic to use. So this, as it was so successful, we have one in the staff member. I have one person who is a permanent staff member who supports and works together with this cultural heritage for all the cultural heritage institutions interested in it, and helps them also if they have questions. And she, with her, we are looking into making the next steps, how we can further develop it. But we decided when we discussed it that because we have been invested quite a lot in using Monika already, and it's as it is already quite usable at the moment, we decided we'll stick to Monika and further develop this. Does this?
Yeah, thanks. If I can ask one brief follow-up question is, how do you market these stories? Or how do people discover these? Do they need to come to yours, or is it like linked from the museum websites as well? In a way, are you giving this back to the museums or the institutions in that sense? Yeah,
the museums or the cultural heritage institutions, also archives, some archives using it, and also some libraries. They can include it also on their website, but we also we advertise. We make people known about it by having a short information in our newsletter, which we are sending out. But and we have been discussing this in the group. They are quite hidden at the moment because we only have this section journal, and you have to know that they are there. Otherwise, you find them via linking or via the newsletter or so. But we have plans, because there are already so many of them, and it was such a success. We think to have probably already in the next step, which we will do in about 6 weeks or so, or June at the latest, that we will have a section also that it can be more easily find on the website. But it's promoted also via our social media. When a new exhibition has been published, the colleague responsible for social media sent a message out using our social media channels.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid we're running out of time. I can feel that there were probably lots more questions to ask. So perhaps to finish us off, if each of our speakers are willing to basically give us some advice. So what's the one thing that we should do? What's the best possible idea for what we're going to do? Or if you're willing, what's the one thing we mustn't do when we're looking at building a service like this? And if we could keep it quite short, because we've run over time, but that would be great. If either of you want to volunteer a positive or a negative for us to take away. Either of you willing?
Should I start maybe?
Please.
Well, as you asked already, I would recommend think practical. Don't be too theoretic, because otherwise you will not get anywhere, I think. On the other hand, take into account if you want to have a cross-sectoral library, digital library access point, then you have to have find a way of having metadata which really supports the different types of objects you have to work with. So not too simple, even if you never can do it perfect. But so like Italy, they developed the Pico file. We have a way of the EDM file, but we have for the museums, we use Lido. For the archival, we use a different format. So in order really to start from the different cultural heritage institutions, what they can provide, and then think about what you want to, what are the main joint metadata files you want to search about, and then see whether practically they can be filled by the institutions as well as, or can be mapped or converted.
Thank you. Very practical and generous advice. David, what's the
And
one message you want us to take away?
Build a network, a real network, but not only build a network, build a real family of different institutions from different sectors. Because if you want to be an aggregator, you must be able to merge all the needs of different institutions, big, small, archives, etc. If you will be able to do that in the right way, you substantially, from my point of view, you did everything you have to do.
You're muted, Rebecca.
Hit the wrong button. Thank you so much, and for finishing us off in such a positive way. That will be great for our forward thinking. So thank you so much to both of our speakers for joining us and for sharing so much information, for all of our guests here for coming and listening and being part of the TaNC community. And thank you. Have a good day.
Have a good day, you too.